So something to think about is, what does freedom mean to you, and how much does it mean to you? How do we define the word freedom for ourselves? Is it having enough money to retire early? Is it sending your kids to a specific kind of school, or finishing a certain education for yourself, or only working half of the week? What does freedom actually mean to you? And then how much do we actually value freedom? Are we okay with being in a relationship that traps us in some ways, or makes us feel sort of tangled, makes us feel stuck in a place because we have to support for a family or be there for a partner? Is freedom even a logistical thing, a geographical thing, where we wish to live in different parts of the world, or is it a fully mental concept? Okay, so freedom is not something we own or something we buy. Freedom is who we are. At our core, in our existence as human beings, we are completely free. This is it. This is our lives, our existence. Every second that goes by is a moment that will never be back. And there's so many different ways to analyze this idea. We can get into all sorts of parallel universes and all sorts of ideas of time going and flowing in different motion and different parallel movements, living in multidimensional spaces. It gets a little bit insane, but to the best of our understanding, the seconds do not come back, at least not in this lifetime, right? For us to experience anything beyond that, we really have to either transcend into a whole different dimension or pass, move on, right? Move to a whole different world, move on, die. So freedom is what we experience now. We have been training, we have been preparing our lives to reach a point where we can finally be free. And I mean this in terms of physical health, I mean this in terms of retirement, I mean this in terms of our mental capacity to just relax and not have to multitask 300 different things in 1 hour, right? There is value for having you time within each hour. It can be a daily thing to have a moment for yourself. It could be a breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing. Every aspect of the day, morning, afternoon, evening, we have a right to have time to ourselves. We have a right to spend at least a little bit of time completely to ourselves, without any distraction in from the outside world, or from any kind of requirement, any kind of expectation for us to do anything, achieve anything. And that is really freedom. Like, what do we want to do with the limited amount of time we have on this earth? If money wasn't a problem, if family, children, spouse, girlfriends, if relationships were not an aspect of our lives, and by no means, if you had the time to yourself and you could choose who you want to spend it with, what you want to do in that time, where would you like to go, how would you like to spend that time, or where would you like to visit, and what would you do there, right? If you can afford anything, then what would you spend the money on? And maybe the better question is, if you could afford anything, would you even spend any money? You know, let's look at some of the greatest millionaires, you know, people like Elon Musk, people like, let's say Steve Jobs. Some of these people, we can criticize their work for so many different reasons, but when we look at them, they don't look like they're spending a whole lot of money. They're just wearing a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and really an average employee can afford the same outfit, right? So the question I'm asking when it comes to finance and freedom is that once you can afford anything, would you even spend any money on anything? And obviously I'm here in this apartment, I cannot afford anything, right? But abundance at its core leads to a level of self-preservation. Abundance at its core leads to a lack of desire, right? We desire things that we do not have. Once we have access to anything easily, then desire goes away. So spending money or energy or time on something that is outside of our desire, it just sounds like a stupid way of spending your time. So because of that, someone who has so much money probably lacks the interest in Gucci and Louis Vuitton because they can buy that at any moment and there's no excitement in that, right? The sense of desire goes away. So what does freedom mean to that person? And maybe in this lifetime, you and I are not going to be multimillionaires or billionaires to experience that level of abundance, financial abundance, in order to be able to then tap into our true selves. However, we are smart enough, we are intelligent human beings. That's why we exist, because our ancestors were able to survive and they had a level of intelligence that allowed them to survive the predators. We were not any stronger or faster than the cheetahs and the lions and the wolves and the bears. We weren't, right? We had our intelligence that allowed us to survive. And in our life, our daily lives today, we can take that same level of intelligence and apply it not only to our careers, not only to our desires, but to our sense of joy, to our inner sense of happiness. So if we see someone who has everything but desires nothing, that is a clear sign, right? That is a clear sign that if you and I had everything also, chances are our desire will shrink. So we can take a deep breath and start to ask ourselves the only single question that matters, which is, what do we really want? What do we actually want in this life? Chances are the answer to that is freedom, at least for most men. Now, what would you do with that freedom? Without obviously harming anyone, without being rude, without causing any level of self-harm, physical harm, mental or emotional harm to yourself or to anyone else, right? What would you do with your time on this planet if you did not have to hustle day in, day out for a life that you assume you would want to live if and only if you achieved what may be the top less than 1% of the population achieves. So take a step back and ask yourself, how much of that life can you actually live today? And maybe not all of it, and that's okay. We're not meant to gain everything we ever wanted or manifested for ourselves, right? We will lose some and win some. That's just the way the world works. If you have any other understanding of this world, I hope it works well for you, but chances are you will be disappointed. You will lose some and you will win some. But what do you want to do with this limited time? Thank you all for watching.